And welcome into In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports, going in depth with some of the top athletes in the history of the Palmetto State. And we're certainly joined by a pretty good one right now, Patrick DiMarco, fresh off a decade-long career in the NFL. First of all, Patrick, this is kind of new for you. You've been playing football for a long time. What's it like now that you're retired? Are you getting antsy?
Yeah, I started playing football in the third grade. So go back, I was probably 8. It's 23 years of playing football every fall. So, yeah, it's different. I'm home with my wife and 2 kids. We have another one coming on the way. But I'm not much for being home too much. I enjoy work. I enjoy being busy. I enjoy just doing stuff. So I'm antsy to start something new. Been in the process of that now, kind of exploring a couple different opportunities. But 10 years in the NFL was an incredible run. Going back to my days, 4 years in South Carolina, those were incredible years. Just blessed and thankful for everything I had.
What's next for you? Do you have anything lined up? I mean, do you have a plan? I assume you deserve a little bit of a break. But, I assume that, a goal-oriented guy such as yourself has a couple of things that he's looking to do now.
Yeah, so during my playing time, I explored. I did some investments. I'm a part owner in a couple Dunkin' Donuts out in Denver, Colorado. I invested in some real estate communities up just outside of Greenville called the Cliffs. Invested in those. So a couple things working now, but I've been meeting with a lot of people in the corporate world, kind of exploring the commercial real estate world, the medical device sales world, the wealth management world. So I've been busy. I think as I go through all these meetings with different industries, my heart's still in sports. And I think my calling is football and developing young men. So I'm also exploring some of those options as well. I've had some talks with Shane Beamer in South Carolina. Actually, yesterday went and met with Coach Elliott at Georgia State right here in Atlanta. So I think that's kind of what I want to do. That's going to be my purpose. That's going to be my calling, is getting back in the football world. And I had such influential coaches during my time playing that I kind of want to give back in that sense. So I think that's one of the routes that I'm looking to take.
Well, that's awesome. You certainly have quite the story. I want to touch on it a little bit. It's interesting when I'm doing some research on you. You were a 2-star recruit coming out of high school. When you have the level of success that you had in high school, how did you keep your confidence when you were rated as a 2-star when obviously you knew you could play with anybody?
Yeah, well, I kind of had to beg to get 2 stars too. I wasn't even on most of the Rivals and Scout.com. I wasn't even on that stuff. I think my sophomore and junior year. And then my high school coach was like, "This is ridiculous. Pat, you're a top 100 player in the state. Like, let's." And I think he pulled some strings and helped me get my name out there. So, I knew growing up, football was always my passion. I played everything. I played basketball, baseball, soccer, lifted weights, ran track. I did everything. But I knew that football was going to be it. I love just hitting people. I love the physicality of the game. I like the schemes of the game. I like 11 guys you got to depend on for one goal. So, but through high school, being a 2-star, being under recruited, I kind of took that as a slap in the face, and I played with a chip on my shoulder. My senior year, we went on a playoff run. Like, we lost in the state championship to the number 1 team in the country. First half of the game, we were neck and neck. I played against a bunch of guys. I went to Florida, went to Ohio State, went to this school and that school, and I knew I was as good as them. I knew from the standpoint, I might not have been as athletic. I think that was why I was a 2-star prospect. I was 6'1", 215, 220 in high school, and I ran a 4.7, maybe 4.8. So I knew my athletic ability was going to hold me back, but I knew my thought process of the game and my toughness and my willingness to go in there and do whatever it takes was going to match up against anybody. So I kind of took that as a slap in the face, and I had a chip on my shoulder my whole time playing, honestly. It was a 2-star, got offered a scholarship really late by South Carolina. I think it was December of my senior year. And then, I thought I was going to redshirt, gray shirt, based off what all the people were saying. And then I said, heck with that, I want to play football. I'm here, I might as well play. So I played every game throughout college and then was undrafted in the NFL. So it's just always been something I've had a chip on my shoulder for. And I'm going to prove everybody that says I'm not good enough wrong.
You go to South Carolina from 2007 to 2010. And that 2010 team goes to the SEC championship game. And that was before my time coming here and covering the Gamecocks. But I'm curious, I'm looking at that roster. You played a decade in the NFL. I would put this roster up against most of the pro teams that you played on. Just to rattle off a few names that jumped out at me. Steven Garcia, Stephon Gilmore, Melvin Ingram, Chris Culliver, Alshon Jeffrey, Marcus Lattimore, Ace Sanders, a freshman Connor Shaw. I'm curious how he was as a freshman.
Yeah.
And DJ Swearinger, a Greenwood native that we all know very well. What do you when you think back to your SC experience, does that 2010 team stand out above everything else?
Yeah, I would say the 2007, my first year, was just kind of like an eye-opener year, like playing in the SEC. We were 6-1 that year. We were ranked, I think, 7th or 8th in the country at one point. And we lost the remaining 5 games, so we ended up going 6-6. But I knew my freshman year that our class with Jason Barnes, Mark Barnes, like Kyle Nunn, like all these guys that were really good players that contributed some good ball for us. I knew that we had a lot of talent in that class. And I knew as we were going to grow and become, kind of a family, a brotherhood, like a true team, and the leadership would kind of settle in and we'd get some more pieces in with further recruiting classes. I knew we had a shot my freshman year to be good further on. And then we got the pieces, guys like Stephon Gilmore and Devontae Holloman, and we had some transfer-ins, Rakevius Watkins, like Cliff Matthews, Travion Robertson. I mean, you look at that roster in 2010, and we had, if I had a ballpark, probably 20 guys that played a game in the NFL, which is a lot. I mean, Melvin Ingram. I mean, we had so many studs on that team that, looking back, and if Cam wasn't Cam and we went at Auburn my senior year, I think we definitely probably beat them in the SEC championship game, although they were rolling. And that team was so good. I mean, those were such fun years. The fan base in South Carolina, we beat Florida to win the SEC East. I remember coming back to Columbia, South Carolina, and there was probably 10 to 15,000 fans in the stands when we got back on a night game. And Coach Spurrier didn't give us a heads up. He, of course, typical Coach Spurrier, said, guys, come check out the field real quick. And we walk out there, and the stands are like, the whole lower bowl is full. And of course, he goes, Cliff and Pat, come out here. Come talk to the people. And he hands us the mic, like, fresh off the plane. It was such a cool experience. That fan base is incredible. There's nothing like it.
What? Who was the best athlete on that team?
Other than myself, probably a debate between Stephon Gilmore and Melvin Ingram. Honestly, those two were studs.
That's fair. You have any Steve Spurrier stories that are safe for television that maybe we don't know already?
Oh man. I got one from my freshman year. We were playing Vandy, and this is when we were 6-1. It was when the skid started and we lost 5 in a row. But it was at the end of the Vandy game. I think we were down 3 points or something and driving. And we were kind of in passing situations. And I was like the passing running back, fullback, whatever you want to call it during those times. And I was supposed to run just like a simple check down route. And as I started running my route, I saw the backer skate out wide. And the middle of the field was wide open. So I kind of turned it into an angle route. And Chris Smiley threw it where he thought I was going to be. And it got picked off. And we ended up getting the game on the ground. We ended up losing the game. But the next spring, we were in stretch lines. It was the first practice. And Coach Spurrier, it's golf and football. The guy just breathes, eats golf and football. So I was sitting there in the stretch zone. He walked by me. Hey, what's going on? He called me Demarco. What's going on, Demarco? And I'm like, how much, coach? How's that golf game going? How was it this offseason? And he goes, shoot, Pat. He said, I haven't played golf. I haven't thought about anything but you running that wrong route against Vandy since last year. And I was like, oh boy. But that's just typical Spurrier. And another one, he came to my wedding. We got married in 2015 at Reynolds Plantation in Greensboro, Georgia. Me and my wife, Kirsten, and I was at the pool with my buddies before the ceremony. And as I'm walking back up from the pool to my room to start getting ready, Coach Spurrier just got checked in and he's walking up and he's like, hey, D-Mark, what's going on? I'm like, I'm just about to get ready. He goes, you know, it ain't too late if you need to get out of here. You can hop in my car and we get out and out real quick. He's just a nut. I mean, he's the best. Nobody like Coach Spurrier around there.
Coach Shane Beamer was on that staff too in the late 2000s. The Gamecock fan base certainly seems like they're rejuvenated a little bit with him coming into Columbia. What do you remember from Coach Beamer from his time when you were playing? And how have you seen him grow to knowing him now?
Yeah, you know, Shane was our recruiting coordinator when I was there. He was probably pissed that Coach Spurrier offered me a scholarship. I was a 2-star. It ended up working out though. But I mean, he was a special teams coordinator as well. So I was involved with him a lot my freshman year, and then I continued playing teams all throughout my 4 years there. But I just remember my freshman year and him kind of taking me under his wing, and because I was like a hybrid role, I was playing a little bit on offense, but not a lot. And he's like, Pat, I'm going to use you on all 4 phases. You're going to become one of my dogs. You're going to become one of my guys that's going to be busting wedges. It's going to be my PP on punt protection, off returner on KOR. And he just taught me a lot about the game. A lot of that has translated to my time in the NFL, was having a really good special teams coach at a young age that really poured into me and invested a lot in me. Not to mention, he always hinted that, you know, guys, if you want to play on offense and defense, this is where you're going to be found out. Like, if you're not a stud, if you're not a 5-star, if you're not a proven starter prior, you start making plays on special teams, and the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are going to come knocking on my door saying, hey, tell me more about this guy. And he was right, because, I mean, you watch guys that make plays on special teams, they start contributing, and sure enough, they start playing receiver, getting more linebacker snaps, and stuff like that. So he helped me a lot early on during my college career. And cool thing is I've stayed in touch with Shane since college. He's followed my career the whole way through the NFL, stayed connected via social media and also texting here and there. He's just such a genuine person. I can't think of a better guy for the job at South Carolina. Someone who's going to go in there and work his tail off and try to get it back to where it was during 2010, 2011, 12, 13. And I've had some conversations with him about what his plans are and building that culture back, and how he wants to have former players around, and wants us to be there, wants us to show these young guys what Columbia, South Carolina can be like if you have success. I mean, there's no place like Williams-Brice Stadium on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday night if you're winning ball games. That place is nuts. I got buddies in Georgia, Florida, Tennessee that hated coming to Williams-Brice Stadium and playing in that place because it was so rowdy, so loud. The fans are just constant. So I'm really excited for him. I think he's going to do a killer job. He's done a great job putting his staffs together. The facilities there are top notch. I mean, I went there 2 weeks ago, and I drove to the stadium thinking that they had everything at the stadium, and sure enough, they have this brand new $50 million complex down the road, and I'm like, well, this is where we used to go to a bar when I was in college. There was a bar back here. There wasn't this. So I'm really excited for him in the future of South Carolina.
Some adversity coming out of high school, going into SC. And then you get some more adversity when you start your pro career, you know, a cup of coffee with the Chargers, an injury ends that, then a year with the Chiefs. What were those first couple of years like as a pro for you? I mean, did you ever get disheartened or disenchanted at some point?
Oh, man, many times. Many times. Thankful for the people that kind of directed me, guided me. You know, my wife, when I got hurt my rookie year in San Diego, it was the third day of training camp, lockout. 2011. Literally fresh off this. I was working at a gym in Columbia, South Carolina on the front desk during that summer, like waiting for a call from the team. And I got called and I flew out to San Diego 2 days later. And broke my foot in the third day of training camp. I actually made a cut and my foot just broke. Finished practice, went in the training room, asked for a bag of ice, like knew my opportunity. This was what I had. This was it. So I wasn't trying to sit in a training room and the trainer had to like drag me back in the training room to do an examination on my foot. I was just like, give me ice and leave me alone. I'll be all right. And it ended up being broke. So I had surgery. And that was a really tough year. So I left San Diego, and the way the NFL works, if you're an undrafted guy, you get hurt, you're costing the team money, they don't like you very much. So I was not treated that well by the San Diego Chargers, unfortunately. And I decided, they asked me if I wanted to do everything offsite, basically not be a part of the team. And I said, send me back to South Carolina where I know people will take care of me and people love me. So I went back to South Carolina, did my therapy. Dr. Guy really helped me through the second surgery, Dr. Anderson up in Charlotte. But Jack Easterby, who was the FCA director, team chaplain at South Carolina during that time, really helped me through that part of my life. He ended up marrying me in my life. Still stay in contact with Jack a lot. Just an incredible human being. But those were 3 teams in 3 years. I was cut how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4 times in 3 years before I finally made a name for myself in Atlanta. I think that goes back to college and high school, being a 2-star recruit, being told I wasn't good enough. I knew I was good enough. I just knew I had to get the opportunity. So I kept pushing. I kept training. I stayed to who I was, stayed to my work habits. And, when I finally got that true, legit opportunity, I took full advantage of it. And but those scars, that was a part of it. That's a part of my story. That's a part of what pushed me. That's a part of why I had so much success, is because you can tell me I'm not good enough. I'm going to prove you that I am. So that's kind of the way I looked at the whole thing.
You go to Atlanta and everything kind of comes full circle at that point. 2015, 2016, you shine. 2015, second team All-Pro, a Pro Bowl selection. 2016, you guys get to the Super Bowl. What was it that clicked at that point? Right opportunity, right system? Did you get that much better as a player? I'm curious, how, the NFL scouting department and front offices, that they're all relatively cut from the same cloth. I'm curious how some organizations just didn't see it, and then Atlanta sees it, and you blow up into a star overnight, it seems like.
Well, my journey in Atlanta, my first 2 years was not easy. I was actually signed there for training camp, and they put me on the practice squad for 2 weeks. So they cut me and put me on the practice squad. And then they activated me 2 weeks into the season, and I played my third year, my fourth year, and then I re-signed just a minimum contract for the next 2 years, for the other 2 years, my 4 years there. I didn't get many opportunities my first 2 years there, and then when Kyle Shanahan and that whole scheme came in, I was a 232-pound fullback that wasn't blazing fast, but I knew leverage, I knew angles, I knew what the defense was going to do before they did it. I just needed more chances to be out there on the field to show my playmaking ability. And you look at stat sheets, like you look at my stats and you're like, what did this guy do in the NFL? My play was blocking, opening holes, was pass protecting, catching a play on second and third and converting, or second and 3 and converting first down. Wasn't flashy, it wasn't pretty, but I just think a lot of it was the scheme and the opportunity. And then, as you get more, I think the hardest thing in the NFL is learning how to become a pro. And I would say between 14 and 15, I really figured that out. I hired a personal trainer. I started training off-site. I started taking care of my body, massages, chiropractic. I started doing the stuff that I saw the really, really successful guys in the NFL doing. I finally was like, okay, enough with just toying with it and just trying it out. Let's go all in. And I invested a lot of myself, a lot of time, a lot of energy to really get my game to the next level. And heading to Buffalo, it was, I really think it was scheme and opportunities.
So you go to the Bills then, and I'm gonna be kind and not ask you about the Super Bowl because I'm sure that's the thing you get asked about the most.
I don't really remember that.
Yeah, that's right. It was a great season nonetheless, obviously. But you go to Buffalo, you're there for 3 years, and you really saw the franchise kind of turn.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's Coach McDermott, maybe that's better players coming in, but when you look at the first 3 years from where you guys started to the playoff run in 2019, and then what you saw happen with the franchise this year, what was the biggest difference there, and what's going to stand out to you the most about your time in Buffalo?
I think it was so. I mean, Sean is my cup of tea. He's very structured. It's football. It's to the point. It's like, look, there's not much fluff. You don't have to the jazz here and there. Let's not make it look pretty. Let's talk ball and let's figure out how to beat these guys. But his biggest thing was Buffalo had some really talented teams. You look at some of those teams before I got there, and they had a lot of talent. They just didn't have the culture, and they didn't know what winning looked like. So what Sean really did is when he came out in free agency that first year, he brought guys like Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, like the right type of guys in to come and build this thing. Mike Tolbert, guys that have won and were leaders and knew what winning football looked like and knew how to bring their room along. Like the defensive backs in Buffalo were probably the best position we had for 2 or 3 years because Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, they were the foundations there. So I think it was him setting his foundation, setting his roots, Sean wise, and then getting the talent in. Buffalo, when they were going through the free agency process with me, they're playing kind of at a disadvantage at times because it's Buffalo, New York, and the weather's terrible, and nobody wants to live there 12 months a year. So it has to be the right fit for somebody. It has to be the right type of guy to get there, and that's what Sean was all about. Sean wasn't about trying to pay guys too much money that didn't want to be there, that were premium dollars. He wanted his type of DNA guys in there, and that's who he went after. So, and just to go to Sean and Brandon, Brandon being GM there, those guys are just incredible people. Like after they won the second round of the playoffs, they texted me and they were like, "Hey Pat, I know you're not with us right now, but man, you were such a pivotal part of this. Your injury and stuff that like it stunk out, all went down and that, like how you're not with us right now, but like don't forget that you are a huge part of this. You helped set the foundation. You're a part in the success," which they didn't have to do that. But it goes to show the people they are and how genuine they are. Just awesome people.
Tell me a little bit about the neck injury that forced you out of the 2020 season, and I'm assuming in some part led to your decision to retire.
Yeah, so playing fullback is not pretty. I basically run into a 250-pound, 270-pound brick wall every play. So I had a bunch of stingers during my playing time. I probably couldn't count them all. Never missed a play, never missed a game because of them, but I just kind of dealt with them. And then this one, it was second week of training camp. When it was kind of a combination of 2 plays, but I hit 2 linebackers on plays and just the first just felt weird. And I had a little kind of a stinger going down into my right arm. And same way as my rookie year, like I'm not letting anything pull me out. And I kept playing, and then I kind of took another shot in it, and I got some tingling, numbingness going down my right arm into my hands, and it just scared me. I had numbingness and tingling for I think 4 or 5 weeks. I ended up getting a cortisone shot in my neck to calm down the nerves, and that ended up helping in alleviating some of that stuff, but. They took x-rays and CT scans and everything in my neck. And I have just really severe arthritis and bone spurring, a lot of degenerative bones. So talked with Dr. Guy, some neck specialist up in Buffalo, New York, and was advised by a couple of them that this is probably not going to get any better. It's just going to get worse. They didn't think that I could get paralyzed through the process of it. So, like, if you do want to play, like, you can just know that next time you hit somebody, you're probably going to get a stinger again. And that just didn't sound like much fun for me. So that kind of had a lot to do with me hanging it up. It was 10 years in the NFL. I mean, as an undrafted rookie, who would have thunk? Because a two-star prospect out of high school, who would have thunk? So I'm proud of my journey. Thankful for all the people along the way. It was really cool.
Are you at peace with it yet? Or do you still feel like, granted, you're out the 2020 season. I'm sure you were chomping at the bit at some point there. So you have a little bit of time since you were actually on the field. But when training camp rolls around in August, are you expecting that spark to be there?
I think I'm going to have something else to fill that void, whether it be coaching or whether it be some sort of work. I'm going to need something to kind of ring my bell and get me going. But I am 100% at peace with being done. I mean, 10 years in the league is a long time. This year has been so big for my family. I got a 5-year-old, just turned 5 2 days ago, Weston, and a 2.5-year-old little girl, Sutton. And then we have a baby coming here in March. So being home with the family and the kids and, like, setting the foundation, like, them having dad around for an extended period of time, that was all the peace I needed. I've developed such an incredible relationship with my son that we missed during some of my playing time. My daughter's wants me to start taking her to her dance classes now. Just stuff that I really missed on when I was playing. So I'm just so happy to be here for them and love on them and pour into them and just give them my undivided attention for the next however long it is until I step into something else.
That's awesome, man. I can certainly relate to that. All right, let's get to some fun stuff as far as your time in football. Who's the hardest hitter you ever faced?
Ooh.
Who's the guy that you have nightmares about to this day?
Well, it probably would have been Jasper Brinkley for a long time. he was not a fun 260-pound linebacker when I was a freshman, sophomore in college to hit. So probably other than Jasper, who has a really hard head and who just brings the wood all freaking day, was Thomas Davis with the Carolina Panthers. Wasn't the biggest dude, wasn't the youngest, but man, like, when it was lead week, he's running a 40-yard dash to the B gap, and I'm beating him right there head on, and we're smacking each other. And then we meet at the NFLPA meetings after the season, and we're like, dang, man, you really rocked me that play. And like, no, you rocked me. It was he was just such a fun guy to play against because, like, it wasn't bad trash talk back and forth. It was fun. It was exciting, but you knew what you were going to get. He was a good player, and you had to bring your A game every time you played him.
Was that the most fun rivalry that you had when you were with the Falcons playing those?
Yeah, between him and Luke, I had plenty of battles with those guys. Kurt Coleman, who I played a year with in Buffalo, like guys like that. Or, it was Sean's defense. It was you thinking 8 guys in the box. They're going to dare you to throw the ball against them. They're going to play 3 deep. Everything's going to be underneath them. I'm talking football jargon now, but you knew what you were going to get. You knew it was going to be a smash mouth football game, and I love that. Like, that's my kind of football. So playing them was like a dream come true for me.
Best trash talker either on your teams that you played against, and a sub question from that: do any of them compare to Coach Spurrier?
Oh boy! So my Devontae Freeman had a pretty good trash talking game. He was just feisty. He's a competitor, and like, he was going to give you his all every play. If it meant chirping after plays and pushing and shoving, I had to drag him out of scuffles numerous times during my time in Atlanta.
But that would work to your disadvantage, wouldn't it? If he's talking trash, you're the guy that's got to go hit him next play.
Yeah, but I never turned down a hit, unfortunately. That was probably why my neck hurts so much now. I'm just kidding. But So Calvin Pace, who was a first rounder, who played a long time for the Jets. We were playing Monday Night Football against the Jets, and we ran like a power play, and I went and blocked him, and I kicked him out, and I rocked him pretty good, and I had him on his heels, and you know, when a guy with a big ego gets hit in the mouth, they don't really like it very much. So they started pushing me after the play a little bit, and I never backed down from that either, unfortunately. And I got up in his face, and I think I headbutted him. I like kind of black out during situations in games, but I do remember him being like, "Okay, 4-2, you keep doing that stuff, and I'm gonna make you're gonna be selling insurance on Wednesday. I'm gonna have you out the NFL." And I thought that was pretty good because as I was walking back to the huddle, I was like, you know, like he's probably right. If he in his prime, if I hit him, he probably would have made me look so bad. I'd be selling insurance on Wednesday.
All right. Best athlete in Patrick DiMarco's family. And for those that don't know, your grandfather played basketball at St. John's.
Yep.
Your uncle is on the Champions Tour, was on the PGA Tour for a long time. And your cousin Steve played minor league ball in the Orioles organization. I'm a Baltimore boy, by the way, so that made me smile a little bit. Best athlete in the DiMarco family.
Well, my other granddad actually played football at Troy. I had a cousin, Chris's nephew, played golf at Kentucky and South Florida. He's actually on the Latin American tour now. I tell you what, when there's a lot of, I mean, the DiMarco side, it's really impressive. Like my childhood barbecues and cookouts, they turned into who could throw the Nerf ball the farthest, who could make the most free throws in a row, who could run the fastest 40-yard dash. I mean, it was always something, just a competitive family. That's kind of what carried on with me. I mean, it depends on what kind of athlete you're looking at. If you're looking at like running, jumping, like athletic ability, I'd have to say myself. But if it like all of them have incredible hand-eye coordination, throwing, catching. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid watching my dad play pickup basketball in the neighborhood. And like my dad had a lethal 3-point shot. He told me he could have been in the NBA, but you know, he's 6'1" and 240 pounds. It doesn't really work well like that. Just kidding there, but I would have to say probably myself. But I mean, it's close. I mean, my dad, my Uncle Rick, my Uncle Chris would probably go neck and neck in a shooting contest with me, basketball-wise. I have to go with myself. My cousin Christian, who plays golf on the Latin American tour, he's a golfer. He's not much of a real athlete. And then Steven, my cousin up in New York. I mean, he was a darn good baseball player. He got cut short, I think, injury-wise, but he still has a training facility and works a lot of kids out. So I'd have to say it's myself. Yeah, myself.
That's 4 or 5 times he's qualified certain things and said it's himself for the record there. All right, this might be my favorite one right here. You're going into professional wrestling.
Yep.
And you need a tag team partner from your playing days at any level. Who's the guy that you want on your team, and who are the 2 guys that you want to face?
Ooh, that's a good one. If you didn't say it was from a playing partner, I would have to say Goldberg. Goldberg was my favorite growing up. I would probably this is easy. Lee Smith, tight end in Buffalo with me. I've known him for 5 or 6 years through the NFL Players Association, but he's at 200. I think he's listed at 280, but he plays at around 295. He's an incredible athlete, mean as he can be on the field, but just an awesome dude. And he's like a big brother type. Like he'll go to war with you. Like he's got your back in anything. So if I'm going anywhere, I'm bringing Lee Smith, and he's not too far from. He's in Knoxville, Tennessee. So he's who I'm teaming up with for sure. And then, oh man, I'm picking. I'm getting a long snapper. Let's go, Reed Ferguson in Buffalo. He's an Atlanta guy. Went to high school here, so we're wrestling against Reed Ferguson and Matt Bryant. Matt Bryant was the kicker for for the Falcons for a long time. He's like 75 years old now. So let's take on those two.
That's a smart man. I didn't know if you were going to go the guys that you actually, want one more crack at, or if you were going to go the smart route and pick some guys.
My neck's in too bad a shape. I'll take the easy fights now.
I like that. All right. Mount Rushmore of South Carolina Gamecock football. If you had to pick 4 guys that have turned the program into what it is today, who would those 4 be?
Well, I think you got to pay respect to George Rogers, Heisman Trophy winner. He set the foundation, and he's around all the time. I mean, he reaches out to me quite a bit during my playing days to come back for his foundational work. He's still doing some awesome stuff in Columbia, South Carolina, so he's definitely up there. Selfishly, I just had Marcus Lattimore for 1 year, but man, he's just an all-around rock star, just an incredible human being. What could have been for him on the football field, but I'll tell you, he's making up for it off the football field and his impact on people. So we got Marcus up there. You got to put Connor Shaw, the GOAT quarterback, up there. Never lost a game in Columbia, in Williams-Brice Stadium. As a starter, and he's back there now pouring into these guys. He's a guy I keep in contact with quite often. So there's 3. And then let's go with Mr. Irrelevant, the brand new Super Bowl champ, Ryan Suckup.
I love it. Staying true to form. All right. So as we get set to wrap up here, we'll see what's next for you. But I do think that your story resonates with the game of football as it is right now, because starting at the high school level, it's a star-driven recruiting cycle. And I think it's easy for high school players to develop an ego if they get over-recruited. And I also think it's really easy for high school players to get disenchanted if they don't really feel the love right off the bat. So I'm curious your message to those guys that are going into, the recruiting process at the high school level. And I guess this also applies to college players that maybe don't get drafted as high as they'd like or are an undrafted free agent. How doing the little things and having that right attitude really can make all the difference in the world. So I'm curious what you would say to those people.
Yeah, I would. Just based off my story, I would say just don't listen to the doubters. People are going to tell you you're not good enough. They're going to tell you you're not big enough, strong enough, fast enough. And, at times they might be right. But tell you what, you're going to have to prove to me that you're right. And I'm going to show you that you're wrong. So I would say have that edge. Never give up on your dreams. Chase greatness, work on your craft. There's so many little nuances and messages, but I would just say, believe in yourself, believe in your ability, believe in your prep work, believe in your training. Just believe, because that's half the battle. If you know you can do it, then somebody's going to have to prove to you can. And then if you have the right work ethic and the right mentality, you're probably not gonna not succeed. You're probably gonna go in there and do what you're made to do. So, I had an incredible journey. I'm so thankful for it all. It was so cool. But I wear those scars. I still have those scars. Being told I wasn't good enough. Okay, you told me I wasn't good enough. Okay, and in my next chapter of life, somebody, you're just a dumb football player. You're just that. Okay, I'll show you now. You can tell me that. I'll show you now.
Patrick DiMarco, I think for all the Gamecock fans watching this, they certainly hope that your next stop would be repping the Garden Black one more time. We'll see if that's where this path leads. We certainly appreciate you joining us here on In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports. Patrick DiMarco, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck on what's coming next for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Aaron.
All right, take care, and thank you guys for joining us. See you back here next week.